Hey folks, it's Abby here from the Anxious Outdoors, and last week I went to Red River Gorge in Kentucky. Beginning last year, my sister Kelsey and I decided that instead of buying our parents gifts for Christmas, we would instead take them on a trip for their Christmas gift. Last year it was Sheboygan State Park, and this year the mystery trip was to Red River Gorge, Kentucky. We did let them know where we'd be going this time the day before the trip because it was quite a long drive to ask of my father without him having any idea of where we were going. These trips were kind of meant to mimic the family vacations that we used to take when Kelsey and I were young, and this one especially felt that way as we traveled south and began to see the landscape change from our northern home. And although some people might find 7 hours in the car with your family to be a challenge, we find ways to pass the time, and I'd say we enjoy the majority of it. With minimal road rage incidents from my father. Excitement grew as we exited the highway and began our journey up steep winding roads to the Sleepy Bear Cottage. The cabin had a lovely porch and was located right on the river, so we spent our first evening in Kentucky just exploring our surroundings, making dinner, and hanging out on the porch.
Love was made.
Here we go!
We had to driven it out and go. Oh, your lights on?
The next day, we headed back out on the winding roads and through not a tunnel to get to the visitor center so that we could start to gather information and make a plan for our few days in the gorge.
Wow.
They got a train stuck in it. This was a tunnel for trains, and they got a train stuck in it and had to blast it out. That's wild.
That's not a tunnel.
Squirrel, squishy tail.
The visitor center also had a restored historical homestead, which we enjoyed exploring as our first adventure of the day. Man, we shouldn't have stopped. This is pretty ugly. After a couple of stops at some scenic overlooks, we headed to our first hike of the day, which was the Sky Bridge. We were quickly overtaken by the beauty of the rock faces lining the trails, and it was hard to resist the childlike urge to begin climbing them. And as we approached the Sky Bridge, it began to sink in that we had only began to scratch the surface of the beauty that the gorge has to offer. How you feel, Dad?
Good.
You hear my breathing.
Only 97.
After viewing the bridge from beneath, we continued on the trail, which takes you right over the top of it. Don't eat them. Those ain't no Michigan blueberries. Our second stop of the day was Chimney Top, which gives you a great overlook of the gorge. From the same trailhead as Chimney Top, we were able to hike the Princess Arch Loop as well. You goose.
It's a video. Okay. Hold on.
Although the views we had seen thus far were really hard to top, our final hike of the day really impressed us as we descended it into what felt like a rainforest.
There's a crawfish. He's dead.
The first interest point of this hike was Creation Falls, which had a beautiful swimming hole at the base of it.
That's
Okay.
Peeping Jenny. Huh? That's Peeping Jenny.
This is it?
No, it's not. It kind of looks like a relative of.
The second interest point not far down from Creation Falls was Rock Bridge, which reminded us all of something straight out of The Hobbit. Day 2 began with our first and only hike of the day, Gray's Arch. The hike started off as mild, but quickly became one of the most difficult of our trip as we descended and it began to rain, making the rock faces quite slick. But that hardly bothered us, as the view of Gray's Arch poking out of the trees was one of the most magical I've seen in my life thus far. We spent a very long time at the base of Gray's, just enjoying the magnitude of this giant rock, which felt almost like appreciating a dinosaur, given this formation's age and size. Not ready for our hike to end, we decided to try to take a cross trail to loop the Daniel Boone Hut Trail with Gray's Arch. The trail ended up having a steep descent downward on slick rock faces, and although we were slightly terrified, once we got to the bottom upon reflection, we decided it was actually pretty fun. We reached the Daniel Boone Hut and took a moment to appreciate it before beginning the challenging hike upward to the parking lot.
Do a dance.
After our hike, we took a quick stop to appreciate the only lake in the Gorge area. Of course, we had to make a stop at the famous Miguel's for a post-hike beer and pizza.
Hi, Dad. What are you eating?
Blueberries.
That's nice.
Then we returned to our cozy little cabin and enjoyed some time on the porch, as well as a
What you
lovely
doing,
sunset
Dad?
over the river.
Take a swig. What vintage is it? Take a swig. Woo! Vacation Jenny. Cheers.
The next morning, we enjoyed coffee and reading on the porch before we headed out for our third and final day in the gorge. Our first hike of the day was a short but steep one to Henson Arch.
Hi, guys.
We were amazed to find how unique this arch was compared to the other ones. As you took a staircase essentially into a hole in the ground, you're able to appreciate the arch as well as some water running from a small stream.
Your eyes are glowing red. This is pretty cool. Hey guys.
It's not the study of cooking art.
Mom's gonna go over us and stomp.
Is she gonna teach them in this hole?
No, she's coming down this. Hi, Dad.
Go down there, Jenny.
I'll
give you $10 if you go down there.
The bars.
We then headed over to Natural Bridge State Park to enjoy the most famous hike of the area. It was a steep hike upward, but the view made it so worth it. One of the most exciting parts of this hike is getting to climb up the staircase cut into the rock in order to stand on top of the bridge. After enjoying views from atop the bridge, we hiked the Laurel Ridge Trail in order to get to Lookout Point, where you can see the bridge from a further point of view.
I don't know how to stand on this and look cool. Right, that would be cool. Oh, this is a video.
On the way back down, we took Devil Gulch Trail, which was challenging, but totally worth it for the excitement. We spent one more evening playing by the river before it was time to pack up and head back home. As I reflect on this trip, I feel so grateful to be part of a family that nurtured my adventurous spirit. And I look forward to the many more adventures I know we'll all share together.